Front-End Authority is an online community that promotes the ongoing education of front-end technologies. This presentation by Yuya Oda, titled Designing for Development, was sponsored by Planning Center and Front-End Masters. Check out their information in this video's description.
Thanks, guys. My first time giving presentation, so a little bit nervous, but I'm going to talk about designing for development today, which I came across while I was working with AJ, who's a developer who wasn't like me because I'm a designer. And I thought I should talk about this to show you guys how important it is for designers to think like developers in the workflow. So how many of you guys are developers here? Yeah, good amount. How many of you guys are designers? So what about front-end developers? Awesome, awesome. So my background as a designer, I have 6 years of experience doing branding, illustration, print, and web design. And I have 2 years of agency experience and currently work for a startup company that developed stock market monetization app in Little Italy as a visual designer. You can check out my portfolio and some of my illustrations at yuyaodadesign.com or my Dribble account, dribble.com/Yoda. It just happened to be Yoda because my last name's Oda, and I just took my first initial and just stuck it up there. Which is crazy. People are like, you're Yoda. And yes, I am. So it's perfect. But yeah, you can check it out over there. I originally started designing and for publication. I was doing it for flyers, stuff like that. And I truly believed that I could make living off of it. I thought I could just do that, but that wasn't the case. I was designing, like I said, I was designing flyers and business cards all the time, and I was like, yeah, doing print stuff only, and I thought I was a badass designer, just killing it. But that wasn't the case because I ran into the wall, basically. Some people asked me doing like web design or just a little bit of coding. I didn't know any of it. So I started to just learn a little bit about it, but which came to me like, easily because I was into like UX design, and I also understood the, user flow and stuff like that. So it was pretty good for a little bit. Then I was thinking, you know what? I guess I'm a pretty badass web developer. But I was also wrong because I didn't know anything else other than HTML and CSS. So ever since then, I have been practicing front-end tools and a little bit of Sass, jQuery, JavaScript, and a little bit of Git for version control and stuff like that, which was introduced by AJ, whom I was working with at the time at an agency. So I'm going to talk about 2 problems I had working with developers. Some of the designers or developers can relate. The problem I had was 12-column design with, I created a container for it, and I added a drop shadow. And I didn't know this shadow was going to cause that much problem with my developer. So he didn't know how to slice the container as an image or just add it as CSS, which I didn't think about it because as you can see, the margins bleeding out to the outside of the 12-column margin settings. and I didn't know what to do, you know? So, yeah, of course I could just slice it and just have it prepared for the developer. At the same time, why would I do that if CSS is so powerful and you can use it repeatedly for multiple use? So that's another problem. And positioning was also a problem for me, because as a designer, I create pixel perfect designs, and some of the designers can relate. But some developers don't see it the way the designers see it, basically. So when that happens, like, you know, we can't see the way things we see from each other, like, you know, like how designers like create this is supposed to be, you know, 40 pixel margin and 20 pixel padding, and developers would do that, but at the same time, like sometimes they can't code it in the way designers make it. So that's just a problem. And so the problem is designers and developers. We can't think alike, you know? Like, I'm so creative and I create something that's just like what I imagine when I create websites, and I just think about what I do, what I would do to like make the, you know, user experience perfect. And like as developers, like, you know, they just don't think like that. They just think code, and I get super frustrated. But at the same time, like, we can't blame the developers, because, like, seriously, I don't know what the developer is doing, like, most of the time. The code they provide, like, why are they putting $ all the time? So, but we can think alike. We can just step into each other's, like, world a little bit to understand, to be on the same page, and we could be just creating something extraordinary, like Pacific Rim. Just create something awesome together, because we could. And workflow was also a problem. Client's objective is defined. Pixel perfect comps are designed. The whole thing is dropped in front of developers with less time and budget than initially scoped. How many of you guys had a problem just, you guys spend so much time designing, or designers spending so much time with the budget, just basically blew through the budget, and you guys have little to no time to develop the website? Happens. Because designers, we care, right? We care about the designs, and we just like everything pixel perfect, and it just works. When you look at it, it looks like it's a good design. You pass it down to dev, but you blew through 80% of the budget. It happens. Actually, I did a project a while ago. I spent so much time designing it, and I ended up spending a lot of time. So basically, that person didn't have enough budget to develop the website. So we ended up going live, but that website's not responsive. And that's not good either. So, you know, when you put so much pressure into it, devs, they're nice people. They understand you. They just have smile on their faces and happy about it. But they actually hate you so much. So much. So we can't do that workflow. So what if devs create lists of boundaries for what we can and cannot be designed? Designers' creativity is limited and unchallenged. It happens. You can't do this, well, you can't do that, well, you can't do this. Okay, then what can I do? I mean, can I just design anything, or do I have to stay in this box? us designers, we hate it. Because we're not designing, we're just slapping things across, and that's not really designing. But for devs, it works out, right? So the solution, some of it, frameworking. This is pretty cool because frameworks would create typical like workflow, you know, but at the same time, we can, like we're not so limited on design process, and the boundaries are made within the developer's range, which is pretty cool. Atomic design is also important, which is, I think it's, you know, commonly used and what I believe most, you know, common on this problem solution. By setting basics of elements within a website, designers and devs can be on the same page during the process. In this way, designers can create pixel-perfect designs, yet devs will understand what the design details. And having schematics is also common, and I think a lot of design agencies do that. But do they work? Not really. Because even if you create the perfect schematics for devs, what if the devs are working from, let's say, Drupal? Drupal's certain schematics or like a certain template layout, they can't just go out of their way to develop something and make it work. And let's look at Bootstrap. And Bootstrap does define standard, you know, vocab between designs and devs, but it also limits the designer's options. You know, it's cool to have some kind of boundaries, but outside of that box, it's going to take so much time. And it's if a large-scale website comes on with multiple different templates, these aren't going to work. You know, if designers want 5-column layout, devs pretty much have to design a 19% container with 1% margin, and designer, you know, just code the responsiveness as well. That's just not efficient. So the basic solutions that I came up with, and this is the first one. Work together at every step is super important. I think designers and devs define you know, project goals, and both sides define what is possible and challenge each other's with new design concepts and UX features. I think it's really important because you guys can talk about it and like, you know, just establish like the boundaries before you set in motion to like blow through the budget for designs. And solution 2, learn both sides. That's like the best thing you can do, working as a team or just working on your own as a front-end developer or just a designer, developer, you know, whatever. Devs learn design concepts, how designs work, and designers learn the basics. It's so simple, yet everyone just kind of like looks past that. You know? Like designers, I've heard designers say all the time, talking about, oh yeah, I just design stuff, just coding is not my thing. Yeah, it's not your thing, man. But it's nice for you to learn because you're not just a print designer. You work in a team, and you don't want to dump on designs devs can't do. And devs, you know, you can't just sit back while the design process is happening and have the thing dumped on you at the end. And you're just going to be super frustrated. It's like, oh, well, I can't do this. And you go back to the design, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna move things over, and designers redesign the whole structure again, submit it again to the clients and have them approve, and just so much time is just wasted. If the devs are involved in a design process with designers, everything would go like so much smoother. So the practical advice, how I did it, you know, just don't stay in your comfort zone. Everything would come to you, like you just, once you start doing it a little bit, it just makes sense. Devs, like coding stuff is really hard. Like no one can understand, like no one knows what you're talking about if you don't know, if you're not dev. So for you to learn a little bit about design, it should be super easy. Just the structure of it, how the latest UX and UI features, or just the, maybe the modern layout. And flat design's really in right now, so you don't really have to learn a lot about it. It's like, oh, just a grid-based design, and flat designs could come to you like very easily. And designers just start from like a little bit of like small, HTML, like use CS, just get on like CSS tricks. They have awesome front end, articles you can like read and learn. Shop Talk Show, like just podcasts about front end dev. It's really important. And if you really like have never used like anything related to like development, get on Code Academy, like Treehouse, even W3 Schools, like they can teach you, like you just start from like a little bit, like design like 90s website. Terrible colors. Just use yellow, red, and blue and mix it. It's gonna look absolutely terrible. But you're starting from like something small, and that's what's important. And like once you understand, like, okay, well, once I did the weird looking website, I'm just gonna go ahead and make the header container on the top and make a wrapper. And then I'm gonna add footer. You basically have the minimalistic website. That's what's important. And once you got that down, you can understand where dev's coming from. You're not gonna go out of like what devs can do and design something like outrageous. So that's what's important. And I think it's important for us to do, what we do in a team environment, because at the end of the day, devs and designers, we're a team. And that's how we make websites. That's it.
Hey guys, AJ here. I wanted to take a moment and let you all know that this presentation is brought to you by Front End Masters. They're a seriously awesome online lecture series for web developers. Between their more than 150 courses and upcoming events, they've got enough awesome stuff that you can make a conference every day of the week. A PJ's conference, because you can just stream it from your house, or the street next to your house, or the bathroom. I don't care where you learn, and neither do they. They've got all the hotness: Meteor, Angular, React, Sass, and your core fundamentals like testing, honing your UX skills, making real-time applications, tooling your workflow, data visualization. I'm just looking at the first 24 courses. They're really awesome. Thank them for helping this presentation happen. Check them out at frontendmasters.com. Now let's get back to the Q&A.
I think, I was thinking like designers like for like a long time, but now that I've worked with like developers, I just think like developers, and I just kind of implement what I think would work for developers, yet the design's gonna be solid and it's, maximizing usability. I think, I think I usually come up with some kind of a structure and maybe like how it would look like. So, and just kind of start designing from there, like the structure and maybe like following like the grid-based design or something like that. And I think that's pretty helpful. So. Well, I mean, like I was introduced with Sass and not less, so that's how I started. So like foundation makes more sense to me than less, and I'm pretty sure Bootstrap probably realized that, and that's why they started using Sass for them as well. But I think just the fact that Foundation is going to be based with Sass, so it's not JavaScript. So it's, if you can get the Ruby part passed, then I think it would be easy for you to use.
Or what?
Yeah, Stack Overflow is pretty good. I've used multiple JavaScript functions from Stack Overflow, just kind of modify it and make it work on my end. And if I really have a problem, I'll just go to dev and just kind of talk it over and see what happens. And if it's gonna be necessary for the site as well, if it was a request from a client. So I've never done this, but I think mobile first is important, and I think that's how I would do it if I had enough budget and just kind of start from there. A lot of clients, they care about how it looks on desktop rather than mobile. Mobile is second to client, and it's, unless they're paying like a lot of money and they really care about how the site looks overall in every environment, I think mobile first is very important, and like that's how you can get organized things. So.